Hello, welcome. It's great to see you. It has been such a long time, and we're back. And we're talking to Free League about the new, sensational news of Coriolis the Great Dark. And if you don't know Coriolis, well, you're in the right place. I'm really looking forward to introducing Nils Karlén and Kosta Kostulas from Free League to talk all about it. It's just such a great setting. I'm a huge fan. Have you played it? Let us know in the comments if you've played the Third Horizon game that precedes the Great Dark. Have you survived all that the icons have thrown at you? Do you have your Kaba ready? I do. So if you do, and if you're ready, then please hit like, subscribe, let us know in the comments what you're thinking, and welcome back. With Devious Dungeons, Foreboding Forests, and The Coolest Cats. My name is Phil. Welcome back to the Dark Orb as we go back to the Great Dark. Nils and Kosta, thank you so much for joining. How are you?
We're great. Glad to be on the show.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. As I said, I'm really excited. I'm always excited to do these shows, to be honest, but it's a great pleasure to spend some time with people who are doing incredible things for the hobby, the community, and the industry in the whole. And Free League always knock it out of the park. And this announcement, we knew something was coming. We knew there was something on the horizon. Not mentioning any names, but someone at Free League whose name rhymes with Tomas kind of let something slip in an earlier Free League show, maybe 4 or 6 months ago. I don't know if you know that guy.
We've heard of him.
Yeah,
he's around.
Yeah, he says some things sometimes. I don't think they let him out very much anymore. You never know what he's going to say. But yeah, Coriolis the Great Dark is coming very, very soon to Kickstarter, and yeah, it's going to be great. I'm so looking forward to it. But before we dive into that, I'd love to get a couple of introductions. So, Nils, I would love it if you could tell us about yourself, a little bit about your history, and what your role is in this fantastic new project.
Sure. Well, I'm a co-founder of Free League, and we started it like 15 years ago, as like a fan project, and that was a fan project for the old Coriolis game made by Jan Ringen. So we kind of go full circle now when we go back to Coriolis. But I've been playing RPGs since I was a little lad. I was like 5 years old in '82, and I get the first edition of Drakar och Demoner, the Swedish game, and been basically hooked since. So RPGs has been a big part of my life ever since. So it's a really big privilege to be able to work with RPGs and to make a living of it.
Yeah,
so it's really cool. In this project, I am one of the creators and writers, and do all the stuff that Kosta does and Martin does, except illustrating, of course. So it's kind of a collaborative project where we develop the setting and everything, and try to have it like in canon with the Third Horizon and so on. So it's been I'm the real project manager. Costa is no, I'm kidding.
No, I'm the real.
Costa is the project manager. A little bit of everything.
Amazing.
It's a very much a collaborative effort. This game design.
Yeah. And my understanding, even going back to Jan Ringen, is that has always been the case with Coriolis as an intellectual property, and as well when the Third Horizon was created. And Kosta, again, I mean, tell us about yourself. I know you've been deeply involved in the Coriolis line for quite some time.
Yeah, well, like Nils, I'm a co-founder, and I also started with Coriolis.
Yeah.
I was actually one of the first freelance writers for Jan Ringen when they developed or had started the game. And I wrote about an oasis on a planet in the QM system.
Yeah.
And before that, I have this sort of the same history as Nils. I played Drakar och Demoner during the 80s.
Yeah.
Continued playing that forever and ever. And then I had a hiatus for a few years when I did other stuff than playing. And then I sort of found Nils and a few guys that started playing Coriolis. I had to audition to play with them.
It's funny, actually.
I fooled them.
Free League was founded based on a wanted ad on the old Järnringen forum. And there was a guy called Simon that wrote like, players wanted for Coriolis campaign. And I was one of the ones answered that ad. And later one of the players bailed on us. So we had to bring in a replacement. And Kosta had to audition for us.
Is that like a casting couch type thing, or
no? It was we met at a cafe and he was like a decent guy.
Yeah.
So just basically he actually kind of fooled us because he's
I am a decent guy though.
But it's good because Free League came out of that, so it's funny.
Yeah, absolutely. And the story as it goes is that Free League, of course, is named after one of the factions within the Coriolis universe.
Yeah.
And originally, you were writing effectively published fan fiction. Not fan fiction. That sounds terrible.
It was basically fan fiction. Fan interactive fiction.
Yeah.
Oh. In the hammam for Coriolis. And then feel free to tell us about it, but basically over time the property grew and you took on the license, right?
Ringen sort of stopped developing games for a while, and they asked us to continue because we had launched the Rimward Reach as a hobby project, which was a lot of the stuff we like about Coriolis. The frontier feel, a lot about artifacts and ancient history, which is sort of the Great Dark, stuff like that. So we wrote about that, me, Nils, and Christian, who's also a co-founder of Free League. During the early 10s.
And the name Free League for the company was basically just a snap decision late at night. At Christian's office, because all of us worked other jobs back then.
And Järnringen was their name is actually a faction in Mutant.
Yes,
so
of course.
We did the same thing, and we actually went even further. Our symbol is the life flower is actually a lily after Matthias Lilja.
It's very far-fetched. I think it's one of the problems is we picked probably the most boring faction in the game.
We can maybe talk about that in a bit. And of course, Matthias Lilja is also the co-writer of Symbaroum, which was a Järnringen property, which came also into Free League Publishing. And deep down, it's probably my favorite of all of the role-playing games. Coriolis is way up there in terms of everything. I mean, the setting is just gorgeous. And that's a nice segue, actually. So I think one thing that might be of concern to new players of Coriolis is where to start. And particularly, I think in Sweden, maybe someone has just got into role-playing from the new release of Draco-Demona, Dragonbane in English. Or, obviously we have the various 5th edition actual plays that are very popular. And there's lots of people who are starting role-playing game for the first time every year. Coriolis has a history already with the Third Horizon. And the books that are available for that, you've got the 3 campaign books for Mercy of the Icons, and also all of those little booklets and hundreds of PDFs, etc. Is the Third Horizon something that is mandatory in order to play the new game, The Great Dark? And even if it's not, would you think there is benefit in spending the time before The Great Dark is released to the public as a physical book, exploring that universe? Would there be benefit? And what is the Third Horizon?
If I answer the first, and you can answer the Third Horizon part, maybe. Well, the first is: do you need to play the Third Horizon? first. No, you don't. Not at all. The Great Dark is a standalone game that is specifically designed to be standalone. So you do not at all need to come from the old game or need to know anything about the old setting. Everything will be in this core rule book that you need to know. But will you have any benefits coming from the old setting? Yes, if you enjoy delving deep into a culture and knowing kind of where things come from, if you want to see kind of the dots being tied together and so on, definitely you will enjoy that. This is a sequel game. We're extending the setting timeline quite a bit, but there's also a switch of settings in part, but there's a continuity as well. So they're very much tied together, the games. The Great Dark is maybe a bit more focused and a bit more, I will say, I think it's a better designed game, maybe. Loving in the Third Horizon, of course. But it's no knowledge is required to go into this game. But I will add as well that this is not designed to be an introductory game in any way. This is not. I mean, Dragonbane and Rock of the Mourner is very much a game you can put into hands of anyone. And basically they'll get started playing it very, very quickly. I mean, you can do that with this game, but it's not designed for that. This is a game more for people that can want to enjoy a bit more of a deep dive into the world and setting and mysteries. It's a bit of a different beast compared to Dragonbane in that sense.
Yeah, I empathize with that. The first game that I ever personally tried to run was Coriolis. I mean, years ago, having spent years playing, and it's quite a daunting thing to start with.
It is, and that's also one of the design things we wanted to have. This new game is make it a bit easier to get into the world, not necessarily dumb it down in any way, but just make it a bit less of an info dump. But the question about the Third Horizon, I think Kosta is the perfect.
So you talked so long, so I almost forgot the question. What about the Third Horizon? The Third Horizon was a setting where you had developed civilization through 30-ish star systems, where you could travel through them through portal gates. It was easy to travel between star systems. It had not that frontier feeling that we want to develop in the Great Dark, which we actually developed when we wrote the Rimwood Reach. Which is a frontier part of the Third Horizon. So we now move to a fourth horizon, you could say, which we call the Lost Horizon, because there's no way off it so far. So that's a big difference between them. It's more civilized in the Third Horizon, and in the Lost Horizon, it's definitely a frontier feeling.
So in the backstory for the Third Horizon, I know that in a nutshell, a frontier ship, a generation ship leaves Al-Adha, which is Earth, with a colonizing group of humans who are setting off to this planet that they know can be inhabited. And in the time it takes, long time, like 1,000 years or so, that it takes for them to get there, basically humanity found a shortcut. And so by the time they get there, people are already there, and they're just like, they're late. It's all been done. And of course, lots has happened in the meantime. There have been wars, and there's so much. I don't want to spoil it for anyone who...
It was actually 2 generation ships.
One
got lost.
Yes.
One got lost on the way. And found itself maybe in this game. Maybe.
So that's the thing. If you're running Coriolis right now, and you haven't already put an idea into the lore, maybe hold off.
Don't do it.
We should tell this maybe to Andreas Lundström over at Sweden Rolls.
But I mean, there's a version for everyone.
No, absolutely. We love you, Andreas. Amazing. So then for the Great Dark. Also, what I was going to say is that then, of course, once they get there, they find out that humanity has already arrived here. they then have to find somewhere to live because the planet's already inhabited. So they kind of reconstruct the Zenith into the space station, which is Coriolis.
Yeah.
But it sounds like then potentially we're building new generation ships to leave where we are now and head out to the Great Dark. Is that
kind of?
Yeah.
It's not generation ships
No.
really though. Because they find this is part of the backstory of the new game, but they're following a signal and leave the Third Horizon.
Yeah.
But they leave it like through flat space, but they find something, a phenomena which makes travel a bit faster than they expected. So they will find themselves in the Fourth Horizon, which is the Lost Horizon, as Kosta said, and that's kind of the start of the new game. And in this game, there's gone some time. There's a couple of generations have passed, or several generations has passed, and they built up this small fledgling civilization in the Lost Horizon, which is, as Kosta said, a much more frontier feel to it. But kind of the themes are very similar, and it's the same people. It's the diaspora. It's the same. It's the refugees from the Third Horizon, basically.
So it was a flotilla of ships,
Right.
with different cultures from all over the Third Horizon, which sort of mixed during the time in space and during the time they set up in the new system.
So that
we have the cultures from the Third Horizon that sort of over time merge with each other and changed.
A melting pot of culture.
Yeah.
So what is the for someone who doesn't know, what is the kind of the cultural feel of the Third Horizon Coriolis? And in fact, Sanjiro Takagi, one of our wonderful patrons, has kind of alluded to this and directly reference this, in that Coriolis has a very Arabian Nights feel. And maybe we could expand on that a little bit more. But how will you maintain that atmosphere in the Great Dark?
Sure.
I think you've kind of addressed that a little bit already. Thank you, Sanjiro, for this great question.
Yeah.
I mean, it has the same. I would say the important feel in Third Horizon and in this game is maybe not Arabian Nights in space, but that it's not maybe has a Western feel to it. It's more influenced by cultures from Eastern cultures and from other parts of the globe. It's the main thing is it's not Anglo-Saxon science fiction. It's not Firefly or Western or anything like that. And in that sense, this game continues that. But what we've done here is based. The old game has this kind of Middle Eastern vibe to it. We kept that, but we have let time pass in a way. So it's, as Kosta said, has transformed. So the culture has transformed. So it's still there. It's just maybe a little less pronounced, but the feeling is kind of similar. There's still this mystical feeling, this kind of there's faith, there's religion, and this thing that space is full of myths and legends. But we built upon the old game. The old game was built on Earth history. This game is built on the old game, so it's kind of like in layers.
So the old game becomes the history that is,
so it's kind of a meta version. Do you want to add anything?
No, that's the gist of it, actually.
And with the evolution, go on. Sorry, Kosta.
We've said that this could be like Deadwood in space, but that's not the Western feeling we want. It's the frontier feeling.
Frontier feeling.
It's not cowboy hats or six shooters.
No.
It's
and we move away from Firefly. We move away from Firefly too. That you don't travel around in your own ship all over the place. You have to follow on great ships instead when you travel to new star systems.
That's amazing.
And you're part of a crew, which brings society with them, so to say.
I mean that's an important distinction. The old game was very much Firefly-esque, but with like a different cultural inspiration. And this new game leaves kind of the Firefly themes a bit behind and focus more on exploration and more on space as a big sea and like 19th century polar exploration, and a bit more like everything is a bit more of a struggle. It's not easy to get around space. It's not easy to find stuff. Everything is a bit more adventurous in this game.
It's that big new frontier, and actually just trying to find a place that you can call home that will give you everything you need to survive, right?
Yeah.
That sounds amazing. So with that in mind, and understanding that, imagining that as a frontiersman, frontiers person in the US back in the days of old, how do you convey that kind of sense of emptiness, and what is the Great Dark? Can you tell us any of that, or is it a secret?
The Great Dark is actually a description of this vast sea that space is. And when the flotilla or diaspora enters this system, they find old portals that used to be in the stargates, so to say, that they had in the Third Horizon, but they are dead. They call them the Tom portal, so they can't move on. So you have to travel on great ships through this other phenomenon that breaks Einstein and velocities to go to other systems. And you have to have big ships and take a lot of stuff with you to travel to new systems.
So that's like the wagon train kind of thing.
Yeah. So the Great Dark, the name is like it's several things. It's, as Kosta said, it's space. It's what they call space, the Great Dark. It's also kind of a term because the Great Dark, this whole horizon is kind of in the Great Dark. It's dead. It's silent. What happened to it? Something has happened here. What happened to the race or the people that built the ruins? And the third is it's referring to the darkness between the stars, which is a thing in the first game, which is also tied to this game. So it's the Great Dark is kind of like the whole mystery of the game and the setting and kind of the vibe.
I was going to ask about the darkness between the stars, and if that is a concept that carries forward along with the icons themselves. Do we see any?
The icons, yeah, that's an interesting one because the icons, a lot of the story about the icons is told in Mercy of the Icons campaign for the Third Horizon. We won't spoil that here, but icon worship, because that's kind of the gods of the Third Horizon. Icon worship is still active in this setting, but it's a much more marginalized. It's more sect-like, and it's not dominating everything as in the old game. It has been transformed by this new setting. So there's still the icon worship is still there, but there's lots of other stuff now as well. There's a multitude of religion, faiths, and idols. So it's it's a bit more open in that sense. But it's there, and some people worship it as well.
Yeah, exciting. Is the game considered to be more like the hex crawl type game as we've seen with things like Forbidden Lands? Or I mean, I know that part of the Kickstarter is going to be there's a box set with some adventure content there. Do you foresee there being a campaign that will go alongside the product, or is this going to be very much like an open-ended thing?
The box set is actually the first campaign, so we're moving to containing the campaign in one set, so you don't have to wait years to get the next part, and then instead having sequential campaigns built. So in the first campaign, the Flowers of Algorab, you will find out about some of the mysteries of the Great Dark, but you will get new questions to answer for the next campaign. But it will be contained in this box, and it's not really hex crawling, more like a sort of point crawling along these slipstreams. You travel through flat space to new systems.
Which I suppose to some extent also happens in Third Horizon with the portals. So there's an analogy there.
It's also, I mean, it's kind of a desolate setting as well as so. You have this in this when you go on expeditions. A big part is the actual voyage, going on the voyage, and surviving the voyage, and resources, intrigue, and stuff like that, which has a like for 19th century ships that go away for like several months. So the expedition rules reflect this kind of longer voyages. It's not really hex crawling in the sense that you go from hex to hex and discover new cool things along the way. It's more barren than that, but that means also that discoveries mean more when you find them. So when you come to a site or a destination, you can, it's a big deal in this game.
And also, when you travel on these great ships, you can also bring with you the intrigue from Ship City, the colony. So the different factions will have different agendas on the great ships and have different people with them that want same or different things when you reach the destination.
Yeah. One thing we wanted to avoid is the classic, which we think is kind of a problem with Firefly type games, is that the player characters have this kind of little spaceship and they zip around in it, and they in the spaceship they're only with themselves. There's no, I mean, you can role play, but it's after a while it's just you and your comrades, and you can zip around, and then you go to an adventure and stuff happens and you sit back. And this game we wanted to make the traveling also kind of part of the adventure, make it more feel like the traveling is a big deal. That's why, with these great ships and bringing along intrigue, as Kosta said, this makes it more playable, we think, for a role-playing game than only just kind of zipping around in the Millennium Falcon or the Firefly.
Yeah, you're right. And certainly the Serenity and the Firefly, or the TARDIS or the Stargate. Or
I mean, we love that as well. It's
just
great,
a function, isn't it?
It's been done quite a lot.
Yeah. And they're all the same thing, even if it's a Stargate or as I said, the TARDIS, or it's the Millennium Falcon or whatnot. Really, it's just a device, a narrative device to get you from point A to point B, and generally ignore the bit in the middle. You might have a little bit of fighting on the way, even in Coriolis, of course. But you're right. It's never about the journey.
No.
Or very rarely about the journey.
We should stress, though, because a lot of people ask about this. You do have a ship. It's just not a big ship. You have the crew has their own little shuttle, which is attached to the big ships, and they can go off and land on and have vehicles on and so on. It's a bit smaller, and you don't kind of zip from system to system with them. You travel in system with them. So you do have that as well. It's not that you're bound to just go on other people's ships.
So it's like putting your car on the ferry then.
Exactly, yes. This is a game about space ferries. That makes it sound really exciting.
Oh. You talked about the fact that the icon worship is much less common and is more of a related to specific groups of people. The original or the previous game, the Third Horizon, has many different factions. My favorite is probably the Draconites, who are kind of secretive and have cool shit, basically. I wondered if either of you have any favorite factions from the previous game, and if you might be able to talk about your favorite factions, maybe just a little bit from the new game, or what your character might be like if you were to create a character in the new game.
Sure. Do you want to start, or should I?
Well, you start.
Okay, my favorite faction from the Third Horizon, this is 100% easy. It is the Zenithian hegemony. How do you say hegemony? Yeah, they're evil bastards that are really stuck up their own arses, and they're kind of like, I don't know. I just love them. They're kind of these very conservative and aloof types.
They're the Londo Malari from Babylon 5 of
I love them because there's a lot of narrative juice in their history, and it's actually, you can tell because I think it's the fraction we wrote the most about.
We started writing about them.
What's your favorite?
I was gonna say the same, actually, because we wrote a lot of good stuff about them. Otherwise, I'd say the Draconites are cool because they're dig into mysteries and ancient artifacts and stuff like that. And actually, if you look in the old or the core rule book, there's actually a little box of how you learn about artifacts, which was something I really wanted to have in the game, which is not really a big part of the Third Horizon at this moment, but will be in the Great Arc.
Yes, artifacts are.
What's your favorite in the new one?
In the new one, I'd say the favorite would be the Wreckers, which are like a group of people that have shunned the society in the Jumua system and live among themselves, not in the colony, but instead as space nomads, you could say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I would say for me it's the Coriolis, which is I think it's a kind of cool faction. It feels stupid talking about their own stuff, but it is the Coriolis are kind of almost a sect-like faction in a new game that are kind of obsessed with the Third Horizon. They're obsessed with everything about history, about tradition, about religion, everything like that. But they're taking it like several notches further. So they have kind of mixed together these really elaborate rituals. They dress really strangely. They have these masks that you can see in the first game from Sadal as well. And they're kind of really strange types that have kind of their own society within the society, deep in the ship city. So they're full of intrigue, full of shenanigans. They're weird, and they have this really, really strong connection to the old setting, which you can do a lot of fun with. So the kind of their surnames is often based on where they claim to have come from in the old game, and so on. And they have these strange rituals, which you never know if they're kind of phony or real.
Amazing! That sounds fantastic. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. One thing that did come up on our Discord, and if you'd like to join our Discord, the link is down below. One thing that came up is the strength of the graphical style. It's throughout all 3D games. It's something that you take very seriously as design. But Coriolis has always had a really distinctive and unique style. And we wondered if you could talk a little bit about how you're going to approach this with this new game, and basically what the style will be like. I mean, in fact, one of our Discord members, John, said Martin Grip was deeply involved in the original Coriolis property. Will the art style be like the original core book, or more like the expansions, or a completely new direction?
Well, it will be. It's Martin Grip that does the game here now.
He's deeply involved this time too.
Yes, and he's actually involved in making the set and everything. So he's kind of part of the core team. It's basically I would say 50% going back to the original and 50% a new style.
Yeah, because
of things have happened and it looks a bit different. But it's in terms of comparison, it's more similar to the old core book than to maybe the expansions. Maybe exempting the covers for Mercy of the Icon, which is Icon series, which is kind of similar.
They are gorgeous, and in fact, we'll show some of the covers, some of the artwork from the campaign now. I'm very looking forward to the campaign, which we didn't mention is actually coming to Kickstarter on March 19th. So we got like less than 3 weeks to find some money. Thanks, guys.
But it's Martin Grip, and you see it's kind of his. I mean, it's a bit of his classical style. This kind of gritty, dark tones and so on. But he also tried to liven it up with some brighter colors. There's a lot of colors in the full game. It's a bit so it's a bit different, but it's similar.
It's very evocative of the style that he used for the Alien role-playing game.
In a great way. For sure.
Loved that.
It's more color in this game than Alien, but it's
that's not hard.
No.
Oh, that's amazing. We had some questions also about the game system. So Year Zero engine has evolved so much since the Third Horizon came out. And we wondered how Year Zero engine might have been adapted further. There are so many different elements that have appeared throughout the more recent games. We have things like stress dice and different ways of rolling for damage or for weapons or anything. Is there any kind of significant changes to the dice system for the Great Dark, and can that be ported back to the third horizon?
Yeah, we will make it possible to port back, but it might be not 100%. It's basically dice pools like before with D6s with symbols on them.
Yeah.
Looking really good. You'll see them on the Kickstarter, of course. So that's the basic part. You have a push mechanic as before, but not with the darkness points, with a lot of people have asked about. Instead, we have what is important in this game is the hope for the future. So hope drives you.
Yeah.
As long as you have hope, you can push on.
Oh, that's great.
Collaborating with each other, helping each other.
Yeah. So it's a frontier feeling and keeping the group or the crew together.
Wow.
One difference is that we have gear dice in this game because gear equipment in this game is much more important than in Third Horizon. In Third Horizon, this is kind of more civilized society. In this game, it's more frontier. So if you your winch breaks down, that's a big deal. Or if your your rope goes off or something like that. So gear dice is back in this game. Otherwise, there's the big thing here is that it's a later iteration. We try to focus more on what we want to do with this game, which means we have pulled down on the crunch level on some parts. For instance, combat is a bit less crunchy in the game, and it's a bit faster, more fluid. We put a little bit crunch on exploration and stuff like that, which we feel is important for this game. But we kind of switch things around a bit, but people will recognize themselves. But it's a more streamlined version of Year Zero, I would say.
Actually, the first Coriolis we made was the first time we went with the Zero system outside of Mutant.
Yeah,
so it was the first iteration where we actually used it as our core engine for all the games to come.
Yeah, and it works great in Third Horizon, but it tries a little bit to do a little bit too many things at the same time. And this game, we kind of know a little bit more what we want to do with the engine. So, and we work closely with Thomas, which is the main rules designer.
Yeah, that guy.
And so it's a lot of things that happen with the engine in general, and then there's some things go into certain games because of certain reasons. It's a more streamlined game, but not streamlined in that sense that it's shallow.
Absolutely, and certainly I think the thing with Year Zero, if you're coming to it from maybe a D20 game, there are a few of those, but we know which one we mean. It can feel cripplingly or punishingly hard to get a success, particularly at lower levels. Something to be mindful for any new GMs out there is maybe go easy on asking dice rolls for everything at the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the big things. You shouldn't roll for everything.
No,
we should also mention that this follows the old game in that you have hit points and so on is two stats added together compared to, for example, Alien or Blade Runner, where you have maybe 4 or 5 hit points. In this game, you have double the amount. So it's not as super deadly as those games. No, it's still deadly.
So it's similar to Coriolis, the first version, in that way. Yeah. But we've tuned down, as you said, combat, so we don't have fast actions and slow actions, and instead it's just move and action.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's a little bit more pulpy, maybe, in terms of playing it at the table. It's a little bit less complex, but not to an extent that it doesn't feel like you're even having an event.
No.
I wouldn't say it's like pulpy or swashbuckling in feeling, but it's quick. But it's still it's dangerous and quite lethal. Yeah. So the feeling we're going after is more like you have this desperate. When there's a fight, it's a desperate fight. It's dangerous and it feels.
You don't want to do it.
No, you don't want to do it. But it's not like you meet like an alien from Alien and you're kind of screwed.
Not that bad.
Really, only a couple more questions. I wondered if we could talk a little bit about the open license. So we've heard tales that the property will be available through an open license, and that we can create our own content for this. How do you imagine that would work? Do you have that all kind of laid out now? Specifically, John asked, is anything within the world protected, or is it all free to use? Are the products only to be sold through Drive-Thru RPG, or could someone, expanding a little bit here, could someone create something for, well, I guess for either of the Coriolis properties and publish it to Kickstarter or independently, and how would that work? So something to talk about.
We know actually pretty much exactly how it will work. It will work as the license for Dragonbane, which is to say that people will be able to use everything. They will be able to sell it on Kickstarter, do whatever they want. They can, do expansions, campaigns, adventures, whatever. They can publish it. They can sell it in retail stores. They can distribute it digitally or how they want. What they can't do is they can't replace the core rules. It still has to be referred to the core rules. But the setting, both the new setting of the Great Dark and the Third Horizon, will be completely open for anyone to use and license. So it's a very open setting, and license. There's no royalty or anything. It's exactly as, if people are curious, they can check out the Dragonbane license, which is this is going to be based on that. So they can do pretty much what they want, except put in really bad stuff that can be hurtful to people, or replace the core. That's it.
That's incredible. And I would imagine, in fact, Bertram Miller, one of our patrons, asks, do you imagine that you'll see the open license going to more properties, Free League properties in the future? Is that an approach that generally you imagine Free League just adopting?
Yes, but there's a big caveat to this, and that is that for licensed properties, for example, The Walking Dead or Alien and Blade Runner, that's probably not going to happen, and that's because we license them from license holders, and it's very tricky for us to get the permission for anyone to make anything in those worlds. So this will be the road we will probably choose for the games, the IPs that we own, we have created, and Coriolis is one of those. So that's why we do that. But with licensed properties, it's very, very hard. So if it's a Free League game, yes, most probably. I mean, a Free League developed setting. If it's a license, probably not.
Yeah, for a while, I know Free League did not have the license for Coriolis, and many of us were very excited to hear the news that you got that back a couple of years ago now, I think. We could see that something was coming. It was just really great to see where we are now. So Coriolis The Great Dark is hitting Kickstarter on March the 19th. Normally ends up being like 2 or 3 p.m. UK time, like 4 or 5 p.m. Central European. And
it's actually 3 p.m. Central.
3. Awesome. I'm excited to see what we affectionately on this channel call the fill level of the Kickstarter campaign will be. That's normally the level just below the level that goes to retailers. So it's the most expensive level with all the crap that no one thinks that they need, but you buy it anyway. So hopefully we'll see some exciting things. Maybe a special edition or something.
Well, it's not out. Unlikely.
Might happen.
Yes.
Very much looking forward to that. And until then, I just want to thank you so much for joining, Nils and Kosta. It's been a great pleasure having you. I hope everyone, you've enjoyed the show. Please let us know in the comments what you think of the game, whether or not you're excited for it. Hopefully you are, otherwise you probably haven't stayed to the end. We'll be talking about this, no doubt, quite a lot over the coming weeks. And I'm sure when it gets to release, we'll do a run through on a Kickstart Your Weekend show all about the campaign and what we're going for, the fill level basically at launch, because there's no debate otherwise.
We'll actually have a quick start during the Kickstarter, so you will be able to play the game and an adventure.
That's what we're working on right now. It's very stressful, but we'll manage it.
Yes. So maybe this will be then our first, and we talked about this in our 2023 awards show, a quick start your weekend, where we'll maybe get a group together. I can't make any promises. Let's see what we mentioned at the time. We'll get a group together from our patrons. We'll get together maybe and run through the quick start and put it through its paces.
Yeah.
Nils, Kosta, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking your time out to come and talk to me.
Thanks.
Great.
Thanks.
It's been
Thanks
fun.
for having us.
Yeah, it's been fun, and we're very excited. It's a dream project for us. It's kind of
absolutely.
It's back to the beginning in a really good way. So we love this.
Back to the most back to the most boring faction. No, I'm joking.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we named our company. We can't change that. But
but maybe you'll have a spin-off at some point.
Yeah. Wonder what they'd be called.
Yeah. It's been great. So in the meantime, I'm gonna go back to my cava, which has now gone very cold. I hope you gentlemen get a lovely after work beverage or two, maybe one each. I don't want to see you sharing. But it's been great. I hope you have a fantastic evening. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please let us know in the comments. Please like, subscribe, smash all those buttons, and we'll see you very soon. And until next time, I really hope that your dice rolls are way better than mine. Thank you very much. Take care.